Coach Jim Johnson. This man's story, ladies and gentlemen, has been heard all over the world. Audiences of all types have always been touched and deeply inspired by his story and message about the power of the human spirit. Welcome to the stage, Coach.
Thank you, Jason. Do you have the power of perseverance? It was February 15th, 2006. I was a high school basketball coach at a school in Rochester, New York. And this was our final home game, which we call senior night, where we honor the senior basketball players before the game. But this was slightly different because not only on this night were we honoring our senior basketball players, but we also had a young man that was our team manager that now was in uniform. And to see him embrace his parents in uniform instead of his white shirt and black tie that he normally came in games is a memory I will always cherish. His name was Jason JMac McElwain. And I'll come back to that game, but let's give you context. Jason tried out for basketball on our JV team. I was the varsity coach as a sophomore in high school. And after a few days of tryouts, my JV coach came in and said, Coach, we have a young man that's not a very good player. He's very small in stature, 5'6", maybe 95 pounds soaking wet. He's on the autism spectrum. He has learning disabilities. But man, he's got a big heart and he's a we over me guy, Coach. He wants to help others. I want to keep him in the program. I said, well, Coach, what do you got in mind? He says, I'm going to offer him the team manager's job and let him practice with the team every day. And that's what he did. And I started to get to know Jason. In fact, I tagged him the nickname that now the world knows him, JMac, mainly because I couldn't pronounce his last name. So I said, hey, how about if we call you JMac? And he liked the name, so it worked out well for us. But Jason came to the JV practices, but during our games, the JVs normally would play before the varsity. And he would always come in with his white shirt and black tie, and he would be all enthusiastic and he would be pumped up and he would get so involved in the JV game. In fact, at the end of the game, he'd be what I call a tad disheveled. His shirt would be hanging out, but he wanted to stay on the bench for the varsity game. It would always warm my heart to see the varsity players come out and straighten his shirt and tie and get him ready to sit on the bench for the varsity game. Well, we had a really good season that year, and the JVs had a good season, and the varsity actually got to our postseason tournament, which we call our Section 5 tournament, and we got to the semifinals, actually for the fifth time in my career as a coach. And we played a very tight game. In fact, we were up 10 with 3 minutes to go, and we blew the lead and lost right at the end of the game. We were shocked and extremely disappointed. But the power of perseverance, something JMac taught me, was what he did after that season. He came to all our off-season workouts, and his goal was to make the varsity basketball team. And I started to really get him to know him much closer because I ended up picking up him from his house a lot to take him at various events. And I just admired his desire, his perseverance, and his ability to give to others. Well, he tries out now for the varsity team I coach as a junior in high school. And after a few days of tryouts, I bring him in the office. I said, Jason, unfortunately, you're not quite good enough to make the team, but I would like to offer you the team manager's job for the varsity. Well, he quickly embraced that role. And in fact, at our first team meeting, I walked into the meeting and he immediately raised his hand. I said, yes, JMac. He says, Coach, we know you've never won the Section 5 championship as a coach. And thank you, Jason, for the reminder. Well, this year it's going to be different. I said, well, how's that going to be different? He says, we are going to embrace this slogan, stay focused, and we're going to help you win your first Section 5 championship. I said, well, thanks, Jay. Well, we had another really good season. We won a lot more games than we lost. And now we got to the sectional semifinals, now for the sixth time in my career. And we play another very close game, and we lose at the buzzer. to our crosstown rival. I don't know a stronger word than devastated, but I don't know if this is ever going to happen for me as a coach to lead a team to a Section 5 championship. It looked bleak in my eyes. But the power of perseverance that JMac taught me, and I want you to all learn from this, was the never give up mindset. Again, he came back after getting cut 2 consecutive years. And to give you context, I was a head coach for 30 years, and I rarely would ever have a student athlete, if they didn't make the team, try out again, maybe a handful at best. Well, Jason now was doing something of uncharted waters. He was coming back out for the 3rd time. And during tryouts, I brought him in the office and I said, Jason, I've got some good news and some bad news for this season for you. He says, Coach, tell me the bad news first. I says, well, unfortunately, you're still not quite good enough to make the team. Although he had grown to be 5'9", 115 pounds as a senior, he was still quite small in stature. And this time, that news really devastated him. His head dropped down. He was visibly upset. But I said, Jason, I do have some good news. And his head popped up immediately. He said, well, what do you got in mind, Coach? I said, well, for senior night. And he goes, I'm a senior. I go, I know. For senior night, I'm going to give you a uniform and hopefully get you in the game. Well, Jason was pretty excited about that uniform idea. In fact, periodically, he would ask me about that uniform during the season. And of course, I defined periodically as about every other day. He was pretty fired up. Well, we were supposed to have a really good team. We had a lot returning from the year before. And we started the season well. We won our first 2 games. But then adversity struck. And it's too long of a story. I wrote a book about it called A Coach in a Miracle, where I explain in detail. But the bottom line is, think about, have you ever been on a team that didn't get along? If you did it reach its potential? Because even though this was a very talented team, the next 5 games, we struggled. In fact, we lost 3 of them, and I didn't expect us to lose any of them. And Jason just kept going with the power of perseverance. We can do this. But as he was teaching us, I started to really understand, because I nearly resigned because of all our turmoil. But my wife and my staff told me, Coach, you always give quotes every day. And one of your favorite quotes is, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. You need to step up. And so I did embrace that challenge, but things were very bleak for a while. Well, we were going to this Christmas tournament after having that bad streak of losing 3 out of 5. And in the opening round, we won in a very close game. And in the second game, the host school, Fairport, beat this team by like 40 points that we had barely beaten 2 weeks earlier. Well, the next day, because we didn't have school, we had a short practice. We call it a shoot around. And normally we bring basketballs out and we get our team some shooting drills and go over some of the plays and get ready for the game. But I knew I had to do something different because our team was divided. I shocked them by never bringing any basketballs out, and really blew them away with my first statement when I sat them in the bleachers and said, guys, I don't want to go to the game tonight. And they looked at me in disbelief. What do you mean? Then I became very vulnerable. I said, guys, unless we unite, Fairport's going to beat us by 50 points tonight. But I got to tell you, I don't have the answers. You do. And you got to be willing to share on how we can unite this team. And it felt like hours, but it was probably only 30 seconds. And finally, one player shared an idea. And then another player chipped in. And then by the end of that meeting, everyone had shared some ideas. And it really helped unite the team. And it manifested that night. We played a great game. And although we didn't beat Fairport, we lost to them in overtime. And it showed what we could do if we played together and united. And it really reflected and manifested. We won 8 of our next 9 games, going back to that senior night. Well, senior night, after we had the pregame celebration and uniting the parents and guardians with their sons, the game now started. And my whole thought was, okay, I want to get Jason in the game so he has enough time so he could score a basket. If he could score a basket, that's a memory he'll have the rest of his life. Well, after 3/4 of the game, we had gotten everybody in but JMac. With just over 4 minutes to go, I thought the time was right. I stood up, I pointed to him. He nearly ran on the court. He was so excited. Then what happened next profoundly touched my heart and soul. When Jason entered the court for the first time, our student body, they called themselves the Six Men, gave him a standing ovation. But what Jason and I didn't know is one of our parents had made these pictures of Jason's face and put them on paint sticks like placards and gave them to the student body. When Jason entered the court, they showed those placards. And Mr. Macho, I sat down, which I rarely did during a game, and tears were flowing down my face. I was totally touched on how they greeted JMac. JMac's now in his first varsity basketball game. The first time he touches the ball, he has a 3-pointer in the right corner. He lets it go. The crowd kind of stands in anticipation. It misses by like 6 feet. And I know for the people in public schools, you know, you're not supposed to pray in the public schools, but I was praying, dear God, please help him get one basket. Second possession, we have a much shorter shot. And this time he lets it go and it hits the backboard. It hits the rim. The crowd groans, but I'm thinking, all right, God's starting to listen. We're getting closer. Third possession, Jason has this time another 3. He lets it go. This time, magic. The ball goes in, the place explodes, and I'm thinking God must be a basketball fan. Not only has JMac scored, he's got a 3-pointer. It can't get any better than this, right? Wrong. For the next 3 minutes, Jason turns into his boyhood idol, the late great Kobe Bryant. And as he's making more shots, I want to fast forward 7 months after that game. Jason's at the ESPYs, which is the Oscars for the ESPN Awards for the greatest sports moment of the year. And one of the other finalists for the same award is his idol, Kobe Bryant. Kobe had scored 81 points in an NBA game that year. So Jason meets his idol and beats him out for the ESPY. How did he do that? Well, after making that first shot, he comes down, he makes another 3-pointer. Then he missed one, and then he made another shot where actually his foot was on the line. Then he missed a couple, and he made a couple. And the 2 things I'll never forget, with a minute to go, I'm sitting on the bench, tears still rolling down my face, and I get a tap on my shoulder. I'm shocked. I look behind me. It's JMac's mother. She whispers in my ear, Coach, this is the best gift you could ever give my son. She's saying it as I'm seeing her tears drop down her face. What would you have done if you heard that? I cried harder. Then this is how the game ends. With about 8 seconds to go, our opponent, Spencerport, and I want to give kudos to their team and their coach. They were great sports that night. They score a basket, and our player takes it out of bounds. And instead of throwing it to our point guard, he throws it to JMac. And JMac's dribbling down the court. As I see the clock tick down, 5, 4, I'm thinking he's going to go in and make a short shot like a layup. Oh no, he pulls up like 2 feet behind the arc. I'm thinking, Jason, don't shoot from there. You're going to ruin the moment. He launches this rainbow. Swish. I look over. The whole crowd runs on the floor. Our players run on the floor. And I see our players put Jason up on their shoulders. He's got the game ball over his head. At that point, I had no idea how many points he had. And our public address announcer comes on and says, the leading scorer for Greece Athena tonight, JMac with 20 points, including 6 3-pointers. In fact, my math brain, I thought, if he'd have played the whole game, he'd have scored 160 points at that rate. It was pretty good. But the really cool thing is the power of perseverance, that Jason never gave up on his dream and he's ready. And a little sidelight, because I talk a lot about teamwork. The essence of teamwork is the 4 players on the floor that night. I never asked them, pass them the ball. Yet in those last 4 minutes, Jason was the only one that shot. That's when you shine the light on others and you really become a team. Although I do still kill Jason to this day. Jason, I'm still looking for your first assist. You didn't pass the ball one time. Well, after that, it exploded around the world, and we got all kinds of media and all kinds of people, movie producers calling the school. And of course, now we're trying to prepare for that postseason tournament. And you talk about being a great teammate. Jason now's got to go back as our team manager. And he's getting all this publicity. Yet his number one goal was that he wanted to help us win our first Section 5 championship. Well, we get into the tournament and we have a bye in the first round. We win pretty easily in the quarterfinals. Now we're going to the semifinals. How many of you had that big obstacle in your life you didn't think you could ever go through? Well, for me, 6 times I'd taken teams there. We're ahead by 10 points at halftime. I think we're finally going to break the barrier. Our team implodes in the third quarter. We're actually losing in the fourth quarter. But something Jason told me about perseverance is you got to be the rock through adversity, coach. And this time I did a better job. And the kids responded, and we won the game. We were going to the championship game for the first time in my career. 3 days later, on a Saturday night, and our arena seats about 10,000. Normally for a championship game, we get about 4,000. We walked in the arena at night and it's sold out. There's 10,000 people there. Well, the game begins, our first championship game. We're down 13-3 after 4 minutes. Our pregame speech didn't work. But again, Jason helped me and I became the rock. And the kids responded, and we rallied. And we actually had the ball late in the game tied. And our point guard penetrated in the basket, threw it back to one of our other guards, and he made a 3-pointer. We're up 3. Our opponent comes racing down the floor. They shoot a shot, they miss. There's a scramble for the rebound, and whack, I got tackled by my JV coach. We had won the Section 5 championship for the first time. We had finally done it. And the final lesson is I really encourage all of you, as you dream big, that you have that power of perseverance to never give up. But also a great lesson, I want to leave you with this. As you're pursuing your own dreams, this is what Jason, another lesson he taught me, was Jason was interviewed numerous times after that season. And I was often with him. And they'd say, Jason, tell us what was the greatest thing about your senior season. And expecting him to talk about his game. And you know what he said? Winning the Section 5 championship was the best thing about our senior season. So I encourage everybody, as you use the power of perseverance, remember, as you're pursuing your dreams, the best way to make your dreams come true is to help others make their dreams come true. Thank you.